Drew says, is there any evidence that memory is more than physical, as in any evidence of a soul?
Oh, now that's kind of really takes us back to some previous Thomistic psychology, and I can just do it in brief. Thomas says information comes in from our five senses, vision and hearing and touch and taste and sound. Did I miss any five? He says, and we share this with the animals. I mean, not all animals have all those senses, but like, our dogs and cats, they've had the same five that we do. So information starts from the outside world. We get, we receive the forms that come from these actual objects. Like when we see a book, the actual book doesn't go inside our eye, thank God. It's just, the form, what it is, we can see and understand. And then we go from 5 external senses to 4 internal senses. The first is called common sense. It's the sense, it doesn't mean just like doing what grandma and grandpa said you ought to do. The one sense that integrates all these other senses. And if I can give a little analogy here, I used to say this. Imagine that you see something white, you hear a flapping sound, you taste a bit of salt, you smell a musty odor, and what was the other? Did I miss in one of the senses?
Yeah, I'm not sure, I forget. Maybe feel?
Yeah, you feel dampness if I left that one out. Okay, so what is that? Well, who knows? Say, what if you imagine, now you realize it has 4 downward projections like tubes. It has one in the back, and the one in the back is moving backwards and forwards, Still, what is this? I'm getting all this information from my senses. What is it? I say, okay. I had this little American Eskimo dog, Lily, and she's all white. And the last time she came in from the rain, she's shaken herself dry. So I see the patch of white. I hear the flapping sound. I taste the salt as she gets some in my mouth. I smell the musty odor. And I feel the dampness. And
that's really helpful. That's a really helpful way of understanding the common sense.
Yeah, because the common sense is what, we make sense of all these different things coming in the different ways. It's what integrates them.
We judge our apprehensions.
That's right. And in psychological terms, modern terms, sensation is that first stage, what comes through the sense organs, and like the eyes feed to the occipital lobe at the back of the brain, and all the senses have their own areas they project to. So that's called sensation, which comes in from the senses. But then that next stage, we're like, okay, now I know what that particular object is. It's called perception. And it actually comes from Latin words that means like to grab as a whole, as one thing. So that's common sense allows us to see all this stuff coming in and say what it actually is. This is what it all is. So that's so the first stage is the common sense that integrates things, the first internal sense. The second is imagination. Like we've been doing, we can form these images about whatever we want. Whatever you see, like right now I'm looking at your room, I can close my eyes, for a second, and I can still mentally see at least a few of the features there through the power of imagination. We can also imagine things that we've, never even seen. We can just make up stuff. Then the third power is memory. This is where we can hold on to images and realize that they are from the past. It has a time element to it. It often also has an emotional element to it, is one of the Bernadette, I think, some memories can really have a strong emotional impact on it. But just in a simple sense, I say, think back upon your grandma. Maybe just picture your grandma when you were a little kid. And, you might be able to remember her and kind of put that in a time context, but maybe it'll generate some feelings too. Hopefully some warm feelings. Okay, so we did common sense and imagination and memory. The fourth one is something called, different words for it, estimated sense or cogitative sense. And in terms of animals, Thomas says, when a lamb sees the wolf, it doesn't just see it, it senses its dangerousness. Right. So it's almost like an instinctual evaluation of what comes in from our senses. And humans have this too. So according to Aristotle and Thomas's take, this is where the animal world ends. At the 5 external senses, and some of them will also have these 4 internal senses. But we go a step further as human beings. Now, Lily, my dog, is one particular dog, and you mentioned a big Russian dog that blocks up your whole room.
Yep.
Lily doesn't. She only weighs 15 pounds. But anyway, so you and I can talk about our dogs, and everybody knows in general what we're talking about. They know what a dog is, right? Because we can take particular items and get a universal concept.
Yes.
And this is where we start into the human intellectual soul that the other creatures don't have. And the first Thomas calls this operation called the Agent Intellect, where we abstract, like we find the dogness that's in common. Your big Russian dog might be a massive, and I'm not sure what color.
Black.
Mine is black, and mine is teeny and white, but we instantly know, hey, they're both Caninus familiaris lupus. They're both dogs. So that's kind of the start there. We can think at this conceptual level. And abstraction is also, Thomas says, intelligence is related to words intus and legere. Intus means inside, legere, to read. So when we abstract, in a sense, like we're reading what's inside of something. Like we're looking at that dog and we're looking past the externals so we can see what they share in common as dogs. So that's one thing. We're able to form concepts. And then these concepts also we can hold on to, we can make judgments based on them, we can form them into words. So now, we can do things that no other animal can. And I say, sometimes people will champion the brilliance of gorillas or chimpanzees or dolphins or something. But I say, if you think they can really do all this, then go to a chimpanzee library or a dolphin website. You can come back and let me know what their arguments are, because of course, there can't be any. So in Thomas's writing, the humans only have this intellectual capacity, an intellectual soul. Now, we also have those animal elements of the sensitive soul. We also have the powers of the lowest, the vegetative soul, like plant life, because we can grow and we can take in nourishment and we can reproduce. But the human being has all those powers plus these unique thinking powers. Now, Thomas says it is through these unique thinking powers that's what's immaterial. That's what separates us from all the other living creatures, because these concepts, these universals, they're not there in particular things. They don't exist as concretes in the external world. They're these mental and immaterial spiritual realities. And Thomas argues that's one of the evidences for the fact that humans are immortal. We have the intellectual capacities that they're not made of parts, so they can't break apart and disintegrate like our bodies do. So Thomas says the only way that the human soul would be gone is if God chose to annihilate it, or stop upholding it in its existence. So anyway, just in a nutshell, that's some of the way that St. Thomas anyway looks at the immortality of the human soul and ties it into the uniquely human mental capacities.
Which is why he infamously says dogs don't go to heaven. Or doesn't say that specifically, but that animals, beasts, don't go to heaven. That's right.
And there's also some controversy on that. But yeah, that is why. And sometimes when I get some of the headiest stuff, or there might be the most heated disagreement, there is one line I like that Thomas cites that comes from St. Jerome, but it comes in a different context. He's actually talking about whether or not souls can leave heaven or hell temporarily, And basically Jerome says, well, be careful that you don't lay down the law for God.
Yeah.
Basically, there's some things that we may not realize that maybe God will surprise us with later on.
Yeah.
But that is the basis. Based on this understanding of the soul, there is something absolutely unique about the human soul. And I will say, in my journey back from 25 years of atheism to Catholicism, with my training as a psychologist and my interest in philosophy, this is one of the things that really helped pull me back. I read Mortimer Adler's book, The Difference of Man and the Difference It Makes, where, his own story, he was raised Jewish. He called himself a pagan through most of his life. He was a great admirer of St. Thomas Aquinas, who in his 70s he became an Episcopalian. And before he died in his late 90s, he had been a Catholic, right? Because he loved St. Thomas Aquinas there. But anyway, he held this view too. He was strongly influenced by Thomas. The idea that the soul's immortality is one of the things that led me back to the church when I realized, boy, all this stuff, it really makes sense. And I myself came to think that, I've studied Freud, I've studied the modern therapists, people from all the different schools, the behaviorists, Watson and Pavlov and Skinner and all that. I thought the best psychologist I've ever encountered is St. Thomas Aquinas.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought about the video.